Left this country many years ago, but this is home. And a lot of people are talking about tourism. I have a lot of friends and physicians who would love to come here and spend their hard-earned dollars. And I told them, give me a chance, let me first go and we'll see what we can do. Uganda is it's an ally as well. As you know, I'm also in the military. I'm a senior high-ranking officer. And I would like to make a disclaimer. These are my own words, because I do represent the United States government. I'm a military leader, and the words I speak are those are my own words. The Air Force told me to make sure that I say that. Yes. So they did. They said they're not positions that are espoused by the United States government. So anyway, let me start by, do you know what the 3 greatest lies that people say? Can somebody take a swipe at that? The 3 greatest lies are, I didn't do it, I'm fine, and I've read and agreed to the terms and conditions. You notice that the bankers, right there, they're the ones who laugh the most. Because who does read those terms and conditions? They're quite lengthy.
The lawyers.
Nobody does. So, I have a quotation, and it speaks dearly to my heart. I'd written a speech, and when I visited some places, I like to play incognito. I went to some places not so desirable. Some of them, and I sit in the back and I watch. And when I left that place, I ripped off the speech. I said, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to speak from my heart, and I'm here to do that. But my quotation is, and this was spoken by one of our persons, Obama, as a matter of fact. He said, we the people recognize that we have responsibilities as well as rights, that our destinies are bound together. A freedom which only asks, what is it for me? A freedom without a commitment to others. A freedom without love or charity or duty or patriotism is unworthy. It's unworthy of our finding ideals and to those who have died in their defense. He spoke those words. He spoke some words, and an earlier president spoke, ask not what your country can do for you, rather ask what you can do for your country. I say that because I think we're in the midst, and I had a wonderful conversation with a group of people. I like to engage the audience, and I like to walk around. And we are in the middle right now. On one spectrum, you have individualism, and on the other end of the spectrum, we have collectivism. And now we have, as a nation, we as Ugandans have, and I speak this because I've noticed that we have drifted a little bit to the individualism side, and we've left the collectivism. Because the ideal part is to be right in the middle. Right in the middle of the spectrum, so that we could, now it's good to be individualistic, but it's also good to think of society on a holistic aspect. So, what is in it for me? We hear of many projects. I can use Uganda, project here. And then we have a multitude of projects. But the cumulative effect of the project, how does it benefit the entire nation? For God and my country. How? What does this translate into? There's an African proverb that the person who runs alone can run very fast. But the person who runs with a group of people reaches the furthest. What is in it for me? I've visited many homes here. But before I do that, We have people who have a lot of money in this great nation. And most of you know that the roads that lead to the mansions are terrible. Now, some of you are not going to like me after this. You've already paid, it's too late. It's a joke. But you know what I'm talking about. That is, I don't care about the road that leads to the house. It has nothing to do with the mansion I live in. Really? Now, most of you have seen this, and if you haven't seen it, please speak the truth. If you're walking down the streets, somebody's going to do this.
Yeah.
Who hasn't seen that? Really? Everybody's doing it. I went to a party, and after the party was over, there was litter all over the place. I told everybody, okay guys, let's do one thing. We're going to clean up this whole place. They looked at me as if I came from Mars. Where did you come from? What? Yes, we're going to clean up this place. Now, we have lived overseas, and Canadians, Americans, you couldn't do that home, could you? Could you do that? Why do we let people do it here? I'm coming to the educational component. I'm here to challenge us to do something greater and more. Okay? I'm here, he picked it up, he couldn't live with it. He said, this would upset a lot of people. I saw people toss, and y'all know that. Everybody knows that. You couldn't do that in Germany. You couldn't do that in the UK. You couldn't do that in the US. You couldn't do that in Canada, but you can do it here. And you could find a wall where people can relieve themselves. Now, I got to speak the truth. Haven't you seen? Who hasn't seen that? We got to stop that. We have to educate our people. I'm coming down to this. We got to educate people. We have to take charge. We must take charge. We cannot let that happen. We must be the example. Recently, there was an expert panel that convened at a symposium at McCary University. The topic was the rising middle class. The definition of the middle class was defined as follows: people who have completed secondary school education, and people who have decent housing, skilled employment. They threw, it's all over the place, to look it up. They threw a figure right there that said less than 8% of Uganda's population falls within this category. There was a remarkable professor from the Institute of Policy Research and Analytics. He said that per capita expenditure of 1 to 5 million shillings a month qualifies to fall within that category, and you must be living in a decent house with electricity, running water, flushing water, toilet, and decent employment, access to health care, quality education, so on and so forth. Now, let's be honest. I'm going to get rid of the middle class and say we have a society in which we have the haves and the have-nots. We have the haves and the have-nots. We have people who can send their kids to New York City tomorrow to have their throats checked or looked at. Then we have people who have zero access to that kind of health care. Some of us here can afford it. But the guy in Mengo Kisenyi has no access to that. And he makes, if he's lucky, 250,000 shillings, maybe that's being quite generous, and has to pay school fees for 3 million shillings, and when you do the math, it doesn't compute. He must be getting the money from somewhere.
Now, the have says that is not my problem. It is going to be a problem because you're going to build higher walls, higher security, and the people that you employ are going to steal from you. You know what I'm talking about, or am I speaking Chinese? In this mansion, you live there, my walls are going to get higher, I'm going to put barbed wires, I'm going to get all Ascaris 24/7, and that's not going to be my problem. It is going to be a problem because the woman who does your clothes wants what you have. The Ascari is looking at you and says, I want a piece of that pie. It is, we have a stake. We must do something about that. All right, so how do we do that? How? Once we identify what the issues are, how do we go about fulfilling this? That is the current situation. How do we go about it? I appeal to all of us here. We must become ambassadors of transition. We must be the torchbearers. We must be the ones that proclaim the following words I cited in the beginning. We must be those people who lift up that torch and say, we do have responsibilities as well as rights. Our destinies are tied together. And that freedom which only asks, what is in it for me? A freedom without a commitment to others. A freedom without love or charity or duty or patriotism is unworthy. What can I do for my country? I should be able to walk down the street and the street should be clean enough for me to eat off of it. Maybe we should have, there was many years ago, some people remember, how many of you remember Keep Kampala Clean? You remember that? Yeah. Keep Kampala, where did it go away? That cannot happen unless we start with the children. Somebody told me it's too late for those who are already here. Because a stick the stick has grown. We cannot bend it. Now we got to go for the younger children. That's where we come now to the medicine part. The medicine part is that we have to educate. Our educational system has to target the children of today, and we have to tell them about this great nation, and that you must love this great nation. You must do the following. You cannot do this. You cannot do that. We must be the torchbearers. We must be the torchbearers. We must, as leaders, you are leaders, most of you here are very well educated. We must be able to say, let me give of myself. Let me give to others. Let me go start feeding those poor people out there who don't have access to food. Do you know what some mayors in our cities do? I'm not picking on anybody, by the way. Those of you in Canada know what happens around Thanksgiving. What happens around Thanksgiving? What do the local leaders do? They go to the soup kitchen. I'm not picking on anybody. But I am challenging us. I'm challenging myself. I go to the soup kitchen, by the way. I go. And I say, I am going to take everything off, and I'm going to put on an apron. We're going to have to feed the homeless. And we connect. We're going to have to do that. And some of you are already doing it, and that's good. But I'm challenging you, we have to do it. Now let me touch education. Let me touch the churches now. Oh Lord, have mercy. Now, I am, disclaimer, I'm a believer. I'm not bashing anything or anybody. Free speech. In this great nation of ours, we have leaders who are very powerful in terms of money. And when you look at their congregation, you shudder. If you give me 1/10 of what you have, you're going to be blessed immensely. And the main preacher leaves out in a limousine with bodyguards. And the little guy leaves the congregation. God is going to bless me, and God does bless. Don't get me wrong. But they've been sold a hope which will not materialize into anything. Is that going to work? The frustration is going to be, they're going to give, today bring 2,000, tomorrow bring 10. Sell your house and give me 1/10. And you look at the suit that the minister has, it costs, and the minister's going, by the way, to Canada and the United States next week. And the members of the congregation are relying on that hope. What does this have to do with us? We have to start educating our people. Education, Ugandans are very spiritual. We have to start, the media has to come and help us. This cannot be right. This cannot be right. Pastor, you need to get a hold of the congregation, and we need to impart them skills that are going to give them food on the table. Just staying all night and praying and doing nothing without an education, without even a bachelor's degree, and no skills is not going to cut it. I was so glad I talked to the educational guru here, and he said that the educational system is going to be revamped because we are graduating engineers who cannot build a bridge. They walk out with a bachelor's, master's degree in engineering. Can you build me a bridge? I cannot. I don't know what you're talking about. And yet we have to import a Chinese person who has less of an education to build a bridge. Does that make sense? You know how that guy got the degree? We talked about it. That we got it. We got to air our dirty laundry. I'm sorry. So what happens is that I know him, and my grandson is in the program. How is he going to fail my grandson? I know Madame Chigozi right here. I know her dad, and I know her mom, so my little boy is in that school. Could you please?
No.
Oh, Lord! And why not? Graduate. And we graduated an electrical engineer that has no skills and cannot even build a bridge. So that degree is useless. It's a paper, piece of paper. Education. We have to challenge people. Okay. Oh, where can I go? Let me. This is anyway. So education, economic development. Let's face it. We do have poverty in our midst. True, there are no shortcuts to the top of the palm tree. But again, we have to, again, I'm not an economist, I'm more of a physician and also a military professional. Expand our base, maybe expand it, be innovative, create opportunities. We have a middle class, they say, is growing. But do we have opportunities that match that growth? Is it time for factories, manufacturing base? I don't know. Those are things that maybe those of you who know economics should consider. How can we build opportunity? And how can we build factories for people to have a decent wage? Because let's do the math. What's the average? Let's do the math. How much does it take to earn a good living here? And how much are we paying workers? And is it really sufficient to make, they have 5, 6 kids, and they have mommy and daddy at home to take care of? Because we do take care of extended family. That is the African tradition. And when you do the math, it simply doesn't add up. And when you look in the barn, in the garage, a lot of things are missing. And that's not going to stop unless we give them a decent job with decent wages. We have to do something about this and take it to the next level. That's our duty, that's our responsibility, that's our mandate. I won't hold you, but that's all I had to share with you today. From my heart, that's it. I challenge us before I leave. The words I spoke to you before, I speak to you again. That's not what your country can do for you. What can you do for Uganda? We cannot wait and say, well, what can Uganda do for us? What can we do for Uganda? It starts on a small scale, LC level. If you live in Mango, I'm going to take Mango right here. This is we're going to clean up this place on a Sunday. I'm not telling you to go clean up all you Kampala. We're not there yet. We're going to have to get there. But we're going to have to teach our children. This is what we have to do. We cannot do this. Clean up that area. We're going to do that. We're going to teach our children the right thing to do. Some of it is too late. We have to wait till they die. It's too late. We can't change. That's what I leave with you today. We have common destinies. May God bless you, and may God bless this great nation of Uganda.